Welcome to Horror Adorer. I'm your host, Anthony Mataloni, and this is the show where I try to get my friends to love the horror genre as much as I do. And I'm joined once again by my friends Herb Campbell, Liam Mergola, and Trev Campbell. And we're going to talk about our final thoughts on Little Nightmares 2. So, we kind of all did enjoy it. We have issues with it, but we overall enjoyed it, right?
I hated it. Overall, 3 stars.
Yeah, like let's start with what elements we did enjoy about it.
Most of it, honestly. Yeah, atmosphere was amazing. The sound design, incredible. That piano part was my highlight. I know that's silly.
You and Trev both are like
My
so into
favorite.
the sound design stuff, which I love.
If you've ever moved a piano, that part,
Which
like,
we've
really,
moved several.
We've moved several. It really hits home. It's like they really, I mean, they must have, I know they must have done that. They must have captured the sound from actually moving a piano, having objects jump on top of it or hit on top of it.
Yeah.
It was so perfectly captured. And they did that throughout the whole game. The sound design was, honestly, I think, the best part of it for me.
Yeah, for like these minimalist, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't even call the second one minimalist as much as the first one, but like I think that they then put so much attention and detail into those elements in the world.
I would like to think that they some of the developers invited their kids to jump on a piano in the Foley studio. That's like,
Right?
And then when it breaks, they
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
had them jump on it because
Kids got
And
very
that
then
was
the
injured.
clacking
that
of
was
the,
the-
yeah.
that was the best with that sound design where it was a broken piano and then you heard that it was a broken
like
piano
broken keys.
as
That
you
was
were trying
brilliant.
to jump on it.
It was odd that at the end of the credits they had the no kids were harmed during the production of the game. I
And
thought
they
that was
clearly-
odd.
I thought you were serious.
It just struck me as odd. I don't know. I heard the news stories, but I didn't want to
Clearly
believe
there were
it.
kids damaged.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they did some like kid capturing, because I mean, well, even in the first game, the mannerisms of them feel so natural. It almost feels like they like actually did some kid capturing.
Yeah, they must have
for-
captured some
kids.
Jesus. Can you
Jesus.
stop
They
saying
have a
capturing
lot
kids?
of their tracks.
It's a horror game.
We talked enough about child murder during the
Right.
first 4 episodes.
It's the game.
It is. It is.
It's a
capture.
nightmare.
It almost did feel like this one pulled back a little on that. Like they're not kidnapping, packaging
Right.
kids up and
Right.
make it like this one feels a little less of that in a way.
That's true.
But they
Yeah.
didn't hold back with any of grotesque stuff or just
No, the scares are still there.
But not just with the scares, but also in the schoolroom with all of the kids in the cafeteria and
Yeah.
them doing
Oh, yeah.
obscene things. They did not hold back on that. They may have held back on the kidnapping
I know.
of kids, but they still were really crazy with
Is there a,
what could go.
is there like a moment that sticks out the that's like scared you or like stuck with you the most?
In that scene with the cafeteria when everyone's going crazy and there's this one little one that's just
Yeah.
like in a fetal position when I thought that was 6 because we couldn't find her, that really stuck with me because I was like, oh, even the creatures in this, some of them are self-aware that this is frightening.
Yeah.
So I thought that was so smart that they did that, but yeah, that was terrifying to see that they were terrified.
Trev?
The little girl on the chair
In the same room?
in the cafeteria.
That's also out of the whole game.
Oh, not out of the
Oh,
whole
no,
game. I thought you meant in
I
that scene.
don't know
Oh no,
what
I know
you're
what you're
talking
talking
about.
The one where the
That-
girl is
Yeah.
like
Oh,
it's,
that
that
is-
was.
well, that's like the weird sexual stuff that's kind
Yeah.
of throughout. It's like it's subtle enough, but it's so disturbing.
Yeah, that's why
Disturbing is
I
that
thought you
word.
meant just for that scene. There's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff that stuck. The teacher
Yeah.
going through the vents was horrific for
Just,
me. I don't
just
know.
kept heightening when you thought it was
That
the
was
final
I
the
video.
really
biggest
thought we
scare.
were out of the woods, and then it was just like, bam, right through the vents again.
No, we were in the school at that point.
Yeah, the teacher.
You said we were-
Oh, out of the woods. Oh, metaphorically. The woods is the first section of the game. And can we just go back and
There,
kidnap?
I just did you to you.
Oh, you just tread me so hard.
Do you have one?
The neck of the teacher was probably the biggest scare, I would say. The part that the scares that got to me, I think the most were in the hospital with the mannequins.
Yeah.
I had so much anxiety and I didn't know what to do with, and I found myself just laughing nervously because I didn't know what to do with my fear.
Well,
And it wasn't
room
funny.
is so silent too.
Yeah.
Like the teacher one probably had the biggest scare moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one, the anxiety level of that one, I can't believe how quickly I got through the point with like the flashlight, because that room messed me. I don't like that. That was too much.
Oh, you killed it. I don't know.
was a lot.
I don't even know what it's like to play the scary parts. I know the combat sections.
Yeah.
I don't know the tense parts because I cannot play horror games. They scare me too much when I'm playing them.
Yeah. Well, I like that we had kind of an immediate feeling with the game right after we kind of discussed it in the credits. But now that we've sat with it for a while, I've replayed the game, and that room in particular took me forever to redo, even knowing how to do it. And also the anxiety level was not any lower. That still worked really
You were
well.
playing it alone when you replayed it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, so how did that change? Was that better playing in a group or
true.
not? I was just thinking about that.
Maybe it's because I already played it, but I felt like I reacted bigger, and like those scares worked more because we were all together. It was like a communal thing. Because the only time I've had a game, well, maybe like BioShock or Alien Isolation, those ones alone are almost like unplayable because they just like they make me too anxious and whatever.
Yeah.
But otherwise, games don't usually do that. So I actually enjoyed it more when we played it because it was just like a fun ride
Right.
sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be able to play that game alone. I don't.
Little
I just-
Nightmares?
Yeah, I just don't
Really?
think I would be able to. I don't think I would enjoy it at all. Like, it was fun because it was like, we have bright lights on and we're all together.
Yeah.
But if I were alone playing that in the dark, I would just turn it off. I wouldn't be able to, and then I wouldn't sleep for days.
I think the DLC is still has the scariest moment from the series so far for me.
Really?
And I played that alone, and I did not. I enjoyed it, but it still was like, I can only do this like little bits at a time because it was just too much.
Did you have nightmares or just like little nightmares?
Jesus Christ.
No time for dress bullshit.
No, we're moving on.
It's like watching a horror movie in a theater. Because like when I was younger, I really could not take horror movies because like my parents like didn't let us watch horror movies. So that's why I think I was averse to the whole idea of horror movies. Before I met you, I like did not like or watch horror movies, and
Really?
so I never saw them in theaters. I never had that experience of like the good kind of scare. And I can't remember what movie it was, but the first like scary movie I saw, it might have actually been. Oh shit! What's the movie with the homemade one that was super cheap with the two people?
Blair Witch?
No, the other one.
Paranormal Activity.
That's the one. Yeah, which I don't know when that came out.
It came out when
But-
I was in college.
So yeah, I wasn't even that young. I remember watching that.
2008, maybe?
At that time, I couldn't have watched it alone. And I remember when I was in the theater, it was like palatable because it was kind of like a party. People were like enjoying the fun parts, laughing at the levity, and then all getting scared together. But I also remember looking in the corner of the screen, and the girl that was next to me was like, "Oh, this is so scary." And I was like, "Oh, I'm okay," but I wasn't focusing on any
Oh
of the
my
action.
God, that's so
I was
funny.
just looking at the corner of the screen, and I feel that similarly with horror games. That's why I can't. I can do it if it's a joint scare. We're all
That's interesting.
feeling the fear at the same time, but on my own I can't.
I absolutely agree.
Right?
And also, I know that you said that at one point I did do like the horse blinders.
Yeah.
Because it's
Oh, yeah.
true.
You did.
I get scared very easily with most things. So to watch a horror game was just like, okay, like this is fun because we're all experiencing it together, and that's usually how I experience video games because I'm not a gamer. So I just like to watch my friends play. But yeah, I do the same thing where I'll look in the corner of a screen or something because I'll know that something is happening. Sometimes because of the music that it kind of gives it away that something is going to
Right.
happen. Or in this game particularly, when it just had the little blinking eye, I noticed every single time that would happen, and I was like, "There's something coming, guys! There's something
Interesting.
coming."
That was just like a save point,
It
but
is.
it
Right.
gave away that
It's
something.
exactly
oh,
what it is.
interesting.
It's a save point, but it doesn't happen all the time. It always
Interesting.
happens when there's like a big boss or a huge scare that we're all going to like jump out of.
It was signaling to people like you to just close
That's
your eyes.
exactly what it
Yeah,
Close
was.
your eyes.
right.
Close your eyes. Here it comes.
Yeah, right.
And then
so
yeah, and just like sometimes, yeah, I'll just look at the corner of the screen, like when Thin Man was coming out of the TV, like The Ring. That is one of the scariest things to me. So I was like, oh no, like fuck you, like come on. And then it's like this, I'm like, no, you can't do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do the exact same thing.
I think also because we were playing so late, like it got to like 5:30 in the morning and we were still playing.
Yeah.
That just added to it. Like I think you see us get punchier, and we just start getting into it. I start screaming towards the end of like, because it's just like, I'm already aware I can be loud, but it was like unbearable because I think it just the exhaustion and everything was hitting me. So
We pointed out that you freaked out so much when I took over for the doctor
right.
scene. And we were saying, like, maybe it's because you weren't
No
in
longer have
control.
control. I think so.
You were just like, just move. Just go through the fucking door.
And I think because like I was more familiar with the controls and you were still
I was
kinda-
screwing around.
Oh,
yeah.
that was so
The
funny.
lever! Grab the lever! Yeah.
Grab it.
With the incinerator.
But I haven't had an experience like that in a long time. Like
Really?
with horror specific. Anything. It would be because of the pandemic. But like
Right.
I haven't had that feeling of that communal fun and scare of it all. It's been a while.
Been a real
Especially when it's hit and miss with audiences too. Like sometimes
Yeah.
they're like laughing through bits that aren't fun, supposed
Yeah,
to
that
be funny or
takes
whatever.
me.
Like it depends on the movie too.
No, I will say for horror content, it didn't leave me with any feelings of horror or existential dread or anything like that.
I kind of agree.
The scares were really great, really effective at frightening me in the moment. The tension building was terrific, but I didn't have, and we've talked about this before, I didn't have that moment, the walking to your car moment, where you feel like shivers down your spine,
Right.
or you feel like something's following you. I did not get that. So it's not horror in that sense. I feel like it didn't stay with me, but I thought it was great at what it did.
I felt that more with the little bit I saw of the first game,
Yes.
where some of the imagery really felt like it was bringing nightmares I've had before to life. Yeah. This one felt like it was creating new nightmares or big dreams, but it did feel like the first game. I would wake up and see that and just be like, "Oh my god!" Like the caretaker with the long arms, and just the grotesque faces when you get that they just got it so right in the first
it's not
one.
even familiar to you because you can't see a human face within there.
Yeah. And it was just that grotesqueness of the face. I have that same thing with certain books from childhood that really, really creep me out because of how they draw faces. And I felt like with this one, they got the eerie feeling and the scariness of definitely jump scares and like gameplay scares.
But earned, I like, because I hate the term jump scare or when it's done without earning it. Like this one actually does it well. Yeah.
But it's
Well, it
just
wasn't like a
genuine
traditional
fear.
jump scare. You knew it was coming, and it still was scary because of how they presented it in a lot of ways. And it was earned because they built up that tension so that it was almost expected, but then became unexpected.
Yeah, or as the player, they teach you how to do a moment, so you already become familiar with that.
Yes.
And they immediately screw with you.
Well, it was like that's a great point to bring up because they conditioned us throughout the school thing about jumping over the floorboards that were broken, and then you jump over the floorboard and it triggers the actual floorboard, and then the light came in and killed you. I remember that part, and just our reactions were fantastic because we were bugging out like, wait, no, that's not
You
right.
did it right.
Yeah.
How do we do it wrong?
And it wasn't even scary, but we still reacted. Just the shock of that.
Yeah.
So well,
It was just so startling. Like,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like what a traditional jump scare would be, but it wasn't a scare. It was just such surprise and such a fresh, I don't know, a fresh mechanic that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because I guess it wasn't really like, I don't even think there were any real jump scares. Now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like it was because if you took these clips out of context, they wouldn't be scary.
Maybe.
I don't think so. I think most of them wouldn't, right? Now I don't know.
The
I haven't tested
teacher, I
that.
think, would be the only one that would still be just
Maybe.
That's
because
probably
of
the biggest
the
jump
mechanic
too because
the
of how
horror.
immediate. Yeah.
Exactly, but not really the hunter, and
No.
not really the
The doctor.
The doctor.
thank you, the doctor,
Yeah.
or even the Thin Man. It's not really
Right.
so much of a jump scare, but I really do think that the teacher is the essence of a jump scare.
Well, I think
No.
Because
I
of
don't
her
think
mechanic.
I don't think the first time the teacher shows up, like after you leave the room, obviously she chases you with the head,
Right.
but I think it was that she kept coming, and That
Yes,
was
that's
unexpected
true.
for me.
Yeah.
And that she would
As you
go
can see
all
from
the
the
way
footage.
around the bookcase.
Yeah.
Oh, and the bookcase.
Well,
Yeah.
the teacher is the most like the caretaker, and I think she also works. They both work best as like a jump scare too, is because they're not there. Like something else comes before it. Like they're both this extension or whatever. So
That's
it's like this
true.
smaller thing that is able to leap out rather than a full body. Like the
Right.
doctor's never gonna, even though he moves
Yeah, or the
quick.
chef.
It's like exactly.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
just lumbering hulks.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
creepy, but it doesn't have that like unnerving feeling.
Yeah,
of just like, oh, this is part of
disproportionate
them coming immediately
yeah.
at you. Yeah.
Like a pair of hands or a head coming
Yeah.
at you rather than a person or an entity. Yeah.
But I did like the continuation of the, like, it felt like a solid sequel in a lot of ways, especially in design and everything. But it almost felt like, I don't know, I could see bits that are fairy tale-esque. Like, I think the first one does a better job at that. And even the start of the game feels like it's kind of leaning into that more. Like, it's leaning into the hunter.
Hunter in the woods.
Exactly,
Yeah,
very
totally.
Snow White, but it kind of sort of drifts. Like, I don't know, the kids almost like the bullies see Pinocchio.
That I was gonna say.
ish.
I remember you said that like after the game. It's like, oh yeah, that does seem like it's going more with that
Yeah,
theme,
but
but
it doesn't feel like it's.
it kind of loses it.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the first game, it's consistent throughout. It very much feels like the witch Snow White. Like there's very specific fairy tale elements that are consistent and all work together. This one seemed like they were more like inserting them here and there,
Right.
but it wasn't as cohesive, and I think that was one of the letdowns with it.
Do you think it was like adding in the modern or sci-fi elements that took away from that feeling? Because I don't know if it has to do with the fairy tales, but I did feel like I didn't like any of the technology that took out. Like the TVs kind of took me out of it, to be honest, in some parts of it.
Because it feels a little more ahead of what the last game is. Yeah.
I think so, yeah. So I was wondering if that maybe had something to do with it.
I think I had more of the issue with the fact that this is Little Nightmares 2, but it's technically a prequel.
Mhm.
And I really wanted to see more of Six's journey after this, especially now that she's become evil.
Right.
And the reveal of the end that she's evil does not make any sense.
Although, I don't know. Did you not feel like she was vindictive and violent throughout this game?
Exactly, but none of that is present in the first game. It
Right.
contradicts itself. If this was a standalone or something, or if she had any signs of that in the first game,
But she is violent and vindictive in the end of the first game towards her
At the
mother
end.
and towards
yeah, exactly. That's her journey.
Yeah.
Is she becomes ruined by the world around her. It's a slow progression, and then her absorbing her mother or herself, who she's destined to become. It's a dark ending. This being a prequel rather than a sequel negates her entire character arc, because she's always
I
been
see what you're
evil,
saying, yeah.
and they constantly show her doing fucked up things like strangling a kid to death,
Breaking the fingers.
break-
just
Or
for
Breaking
doing
the
fun.
finger.
the
Bugged me out.
right by the fire and warming
Exactly.
herself
Yeah,
with
the doctor.
with the doctor.
It honestly,
Yeah.
that ruins their character that they set up, who is so innocent and
Right.
corrupted, and there's more of an interesting story there. This negates that. And there were a few decisions like that are my big issue with what's the point of this story. And this game has now kind of ruined the fun of the first game with the theories and stuff, because every time we've discussed a little bit about the theories, none of them hold water, none of them make full sense, because it feels like there wasn't a clear and concise thing, but it also doesn't keep it open-ended enough as the first game that any of them can be reality.
In the first game, I'm curious, is there examples of Six being good?
So she has this hunger that keeps hitting her over time, and they do like kind of the TV element with Mono in this one, where she gets very hungry, and it starts off with her just like eating garbage, or then having to feast on a dead rat, and
yeah,
like
I remember
over
seeing some of
time,
that.
yeah. But yeah, it's you're seeing her progression. Oh, maybe she does eat a kid. Fuck, I can't.
Out of desperation,
Yeah,
she keeps
But
being
that's
corrupted,
exactly it.
basically.
It's desperate, and it's
Yeah.
as she's getting closer and closer to the loop, or meeting her mother,
Right.
and then the ultimate her consuming her
Consuming
mother.
mother,
So
right.
it is more of a, she's not evil at the beginning. It's just like there's no signs of it
Yeah.
at all, and this one doesn't even like toy with that. It's just she is like.
Well, she's not evil in the beginning, but then when she gets captured by the school kids, she starts reacting, and then in the hospital, she starts breaking
Yeah.
the fingers.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of a progression, I think, in this one, but I see what you're saying. It negates the progression in the sequel.
Yeah.
Although, would it change your idea on the first one if you went into that thinking, yeah, 6 is evil?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It would really change that.
ruins it
Yeah,
for
That's
me.
what I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah,
like.
because it ruins
yeah.
the story that unfolds in that way. And
Although
it
does it just
cult-
change the story?
It does.
But I'm saying maybe that's another angle. Maybe the creators wanted it to be like,
I
oh,
don't
that
think in a
actually
good way.
shifts the perspective in like a couple of degrees to make you think like, oh shit, she's here for a purpose.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, that's a problem. Whenever you start to follow a thread, it's like, yeah, but then what is that? Am I supposed to think that?
And the Thin Man thing too is like that is confirming that this is a cycle. It's like very kind of ham-fisted in that way. I mean, they spend way too much time doing the reveal where you're like, yeah, we're there,
Right.
and it feels like there's more to come. And nope, it's just credits. It's like, okay, that's, I guess, kind of interesting, but where's the logic within that? Like, there's
I'm
not even
determined-
fairy tale
Yeah.
logic. Yeah.
No, I'm completely resigned to the fact that you cannot apply logic to it.
But not
since
in
we
ancient-
filmed this.
like because there's the laws of
Right.
the world you've constructed.
It's like Hypercube.
but that does have logic in that weird like
no, the first one has.
Yeah,
logic.
yeah.
Hypercube does not.
but like but that's just it, and that's why it doesn't work, because you've created the logic within the world,
Right.
and that has already existed in the first game,
Yeah.
and all of that logic is there. And then this one both confirms things like 6 is the loop, but then it also damns it as well. And also, why would the Thin Man then be killing Mono? Why is he there? Why would he be collecting souls of children and leaving behind? What is the TV connection? There's ideas that feel like we talked about it. It feels like a horse designed by committee. There's a lot of interesting ideas, but there's not one idea pushing it forward. So individually, it's stylized interesting, but it doesn't make sense. And there's like concept art where, because if the idea is the pressures of like TV and like, the eyes in that world are kind of the reflected of everyone's watching TV, but no one has faces, but it's like eyes on these children, or like what's damning about that, whether it's like TV's corrupting kids or whether you're a child star and that's the problem. Like the ending goes from him just being in this eye world to then in a room that is then not like a television at all. So you start losing that. But there's concept art that shows him in a world of screens that is reflecting that idea.
Yeah.
So it's like they were doing that,
Yeah.
but then they pull away from it. So then you get this non-thing at the end. And I think there's a lot of loose threads like that throughout it that make me really, keeps me from loving it more.
Well, it seemed like they had much more of an idea with the concept. The concept art almost guides the story more than it ever should, because it's just concept art.
Yeah.
But like I felt like the story made more sense after watching the concept art at the end, which is not what any game should do, because it seemed to
Yeah.
tie threads together that weren't ever present in the game.
Yeah. Like the tall man even looks like a talk show host a little more in the
But
concept
I didn't
art.
see that.
Yeah.
It was so cool.
But they go away
Then
from
we
it.
were like,
Just
oh,
go
it looks like a Rod Sterling
Yeah.
thing. So we were
Rod
looking
Sterling, Ronald Reagan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But
I
then
loved it.
they pull away from that,
Right.
and I don't like that.
Well, like I said, I'm not a gamer, but I've noticed that some video games have just a trope, I guess, where it comes to the fact that they obviously will give you clues throughout like the game and everything. But also, I was going to say I do agree with it being a cycle, because you could see that the children have drawn the Thin Man. The children have drawn
Yeah.
the doctor and stuff. It's like, oh, well, how is that possible if
Mhm.
they weren't there? And then I was thinking of the game Portal, where they literally show you that there's a human and then there's a box on top of the human, so people think that the companion cube is a person in it.
Right.
And it's just leading you into all of these clues, and you're like, okay, well, did the game do it, or is it supposed to be in the story of it that other people have gone through this experience and everything? So I do think that they were toying with the fact that it's a cycle, and also the fact that it's like a video game type of trope type of thing. And then I think they got lost with the story.
I think so.
Because
yeah.
with the signal, there's no payoff with the signal.
No.
Yeah, that was kind of frustrating.
Really upset because I was falling asleep during that point and everything, and then we rewatched it, and I was researching things, and then I saw that it was the Pale City and everything. And they're like, "Oh, it's all because of this signal," and I was like, "Wait, what are you talking about?" That's they don't.
Well, that feeds into that TV channel
Exactly.
idea too.
It's
but it pulls away from that imagery or anything more, so then you feel gypped.
There's no payoff with that.
Yeah.
Like, yes, there's a payoff with the TVs, and there's so many
There's
TVs
not though, because there's
with
more,
the portals
there's
and
more
everything.
of a payoff with the TVs and the concept art as well, where it makes sense to the rapturing, where that's where it ties in, where it's like, oh, the missing people and clothes is because they were sucked in, like they were absorbed into this. That's why there's no parents anymore, because they were all gone. So the kids have then been taken away because they were not, raptured through the TV. Right. And then they're just being replaced by these weird, like, doll bully characters for who knows what reason, but just to maybe make them not realize that the kids are gone, and then those kids are becoming. But that idea is great and would have added to the lore, but they don't go far enough.
That's exactly what it is. They don't.
And that's my biggest issue.
I agree.
The only idea I had about the story that I could glean from some of the clues, but I had to ignore other clues, is like the signals distracting the adults so that the upper class can steal the kids to eat them.
Yeah.
And that's great. That could be true, but I have to ignore everything else in the story. All the other clues,
exactly.
I have to ignore that. It was hard to theorize or to connect the two games because every time I tried to find a clue or follow a clue, I had to throw out a lot of other information that I've already been given.
Yeah, because I feel I watch way too many movies and things. I feel like I can pick up on that stuff a lot. And so I kind of ruin movies for myself all the time, where I'm able to pick up on that earlier. And throughout the game we were playing, I was like, oh, I think I know what's going to... and none of it happened.
This is the end.
Yeah. But it's like none of it adds up because I'm trying to make logic of something that they didn't even actually end up making logic within the world. And I think most people don't care, or they're just like, they're in it for the ride, so they're content with that.
I do think
and the ride is fun.
It is.
Credit where credit is due.
The game was very entertaining.
But if you analyze it any further, it doesn't hold water.
It's a shame, because the first one was so much deeper.
And that's why I loved it. That's why it landed with me, because the more I thought about it, I was like, oh, that's great. Oh, the gnomes. Oh. And it feeding into that dark fairy tale thing, it was just a lot of fun to think about and speculate. And it was also kind of a disappointment of why this was a prequel versus... a follow-up or something, or even something that would have added to 6's story a little more. We're more concentrating on Mono, and they're kind of just messing up 6 because of how she becomes, but I don't know.
Well, and just as a comment, if somebody's watching this and they're going oh my God, you guys missed the entire point. I would just like to say that the four of us, first of all, we'd love to hear it. Second of all, we've been talking and thinking about this since we played it. And if it's that subtle, we must be bad viewers, or
or it doesn't work.
Or we were supposed to throw out some evidence we were given and just missed the wrong evidence to throw out, because not all of it connects. It's like making an allegory with something that doesn't work in the real world. So you can't connect it to something that you're trying to tell a deeper story to.
Or a problem that a lot of things have been having, especially in bigger franchises, is you needing so much information outside of the thing you're currently experiencing. Star Wars is a perfect example of that, where you literally can't follow elements of it, or without certain knowledge, that thing is never going to fully make sense.
Right.
And
the
with
MacGuffins.
this... With what?
The MacGuffins. All the different
MacGuffins are different, but yeah.
But this one has a whole nother set of logic attached to it.
Okay, you guys want McMuffins?
Yeah.
I just ate.
Yeah.
But if you need to have read a graphic novel that fills in the blank, it's well, then I feel like that should be adding to it, not necessary for you to like it.
unless
or understand it.
we're just overthinking it, like with the room with the elevator and everything.
That's very possible.
And the X-ray.
You had to bring that
No,
up.
I'm just saying it could
Our
be.
lowest
It could,
point.
it could be that we are so analytical. We're like, it has to mean something, and
Right.
it could just be like, no, this is just what it is, or
Maybe we just didn't
What?
get it.
It was just about modern media, man. That's all we were trying
I
to
did find
say.
it funny we were joking about that, and a lot of it seems like that's exactly what
Oh,
they were
yeah.
doing. And not really more than that. It was kind of that surface level
Right.
commentary.
But
in a
again,
way.
you try to find that kind of commentary, and then you say like, whatever the logic in the world, but why aren't the children there being sucked into the TVs too? That doesn't
Yeah.
make sense
which
because
is what we were trying to figure out.
right,
Yeah.
because like if you're talking about any kind of propaganda or media manipulation, it's almost always directed towards children. So if the children are exempt from it, it doesn't really apply to that concept. Like you could use it, but it doesn't really make sense when you would
Yeah.
look at how it's actually used. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was trying to say with like a while ago. I was texting you saying that it's okay. So the parents get sucked in because they're evil, and then Mono and Six do not get sucked into like the saving thing or anything because they eventually turn evil. And then all of the children, like the Pinocchios and everything, they're just there as placeholders type of thing. Like I don't know.
Yeah, but
Again.
but this is a perfect example of a theory that then can't happen because there are all those kids that are then shipped out or whatever.
Exactly.
So it's just kids in
that
gen-
doesn't
yeah.
make sense.
Yeah.
And why was Six the only one that was in that house in the very beginning?
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Well, I think that's
Why?
where they were still sticking with the like, oh, it's the huntsman, it's sleeping or
Right.
Snow White kind of, but then they like kind of abandoned. Like the rest doesn't really. I mean, there's little imagery here. I mean, Six looks like a little Red Riding Hood character. There's kind of a Hansel and Gretel thing
Yeah.
with Mono and
Yeah.
especially since they burned the doctor in a fern. Like
That
there's
was appropriate.
there's fairy tale stuff, but it just is not as cohesive and it's not as consistent as the
I
first
agree.
one. So it really does fall apart once you poke at it any further than surface level.
Yeah, I mean, you had the Snow White huntsman thing, and then they sailed to the city, and you had the whole Titanic theme, and then
The most classic fairy tale.
of course,
Obviously.
obviously,
Yeah.
classic fairy tale, and then it just fell apart.
You know, the paradox thing is what I find a little bit compelling is like that the Thin Man, maybe he's trying to save himself. Maybe he's trying to hurt Six.
Which would have been great if they didn't have moments where the Thin Man grabs Mono and like.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I
That
was
makes
thinking that
sense.
too.
Right.
Yeah, and so there's like a few apps that you can download. One of them is a a moving graphic novel. It's like a free little app. It's cool, but it also kind of shows him as being like a villain, and he's using TVs. And when you find those shadow characters, which we were wondering like, why do they look like they're static if they just like died or whatever?
Right.
It was kind of like he luring kids and then taking them, and so all that's left is this shadow static version of them.
Which
Okay.
is what happens with Six.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right, that's
but
cool.
then that just makes him evil. It's like it's not Mono-esque at all.
No.
They're only doing that for the.
But maybe he's trying to save them from being loaded up on the maw and eaten.
Well, then
And
then
take
that's I
away
think
them.
more interesting to show that.
I think it would be, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And the studio's already said they're not putting out a DLC for this.
Hmm.
So everything we thought where it's like, oh, maybe this is something that's answered, that's not the case.
We just gotta wait for Little Nightmares 3: Big Dreams.
Well, actually,
They're gonna make it.
we're gonna replay the ending right now because there's apparently an alternate ending.
Yes.
So I've collected all those souls, and maybe because that's the achievement you have to do, that will then make some sense.
Do we want to make predictions of what we think is going to be it?
I'm going to bet that it 100% confirms all of our theories.
Well, I joked. I said the only thing that could logically make sense is if Six wakes up in the suitcase and this has all been a nightmare.
That I agree
It
with
just
you.
Like a
discount.
little.
No, it only makes sense because it
He's
then
so
discounts the entire game.
So it's agree
all-
with you.
No, that
It's
would
all
be
in
So
our
you're
head.
saying best case scenario, you negate all of
Exactly.
the events of this game.
Exactly.
I kind of agree that it's very likely it's because
For the
why
overall
else is it called
story, that's
Nightmares?
the only thing that
Like-
will help. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's gonna be Mono getting the bowler hat that the Thin Man wears. We never actually see him acquire that.
That's cool.
So I think it's going to be a
And it's all about
So
finding
funny.
hats.
He's already like a full-grown man, and
Oh,
then
that
he's
was
just
so
like
funny.
midlife crisis, like add on the hat.
This will help my image.
But it is weird that the achievement to find is the hats, and then the achievement.
Oh my god, I didn't even make that connection. That is so funny. He just finally was like, you know what? I'm gonna go back to what made me happy as a child.
Right. You know, the great times running away from doctors and teachers.
That's amazing.
But wasn't there an you were talking about the little vases in Little Nightmares 1 that Six had to collect things.
Well, when you broke the little, like, there's only one in this game.
Right.
Yeah, when you break those, a little, like, spirit. Yeah. Like, kind of a spirit or something, like, kind of comes out of it. But I kind of liked equating that to the logic of, like, she's breaking a past self, where that was, like, the trapped six soul, like,
that was the seventh.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But also, doesn't it kind of look like the mom? I think
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So the end boss in the first one is the mom,
Yeah,
right? And then the end boss in this one is the Thin Man, kind of, other than Six and whatever. So
maybe you're your own end boss.
well, that's kind of what
Where
I'm
does
saying.
Six go as well? Like, she walks out of a TV kind of portal at the end, too, when the bridge is crumbling behind her. And so what happened? Like, the ending, why I was, like, so confident it was the end when we were fighting the Thin Man is that it's raining, there's suitcases everywhere.
Right.
It was, like, a perfect moment for you to have some kind of, like, they get separated in some awful way. Like, you just like at the beginning with the door, she uses a suitcase. They have a Jack and Rose moment where Mono and her are broken apart.
Bringing it back to the Titanic.
Exactly. She drifts away and accidentally falls through a port or whatever into the maw, and we have our like nice like.
Yeah.
There was absolutely ways of making it connect in a more satisfying way and not ruining their relationship, and I think making that more interesting. Like this weird, nonsensical, like abandoning each other. I don't even understand why, even if she's evil or whatever, she would be against that. She's worked with other kids and stuff before, and like, what does she gain?
Well, I thought that there was one thing that we were saying, that the reason why she knows that he turns into the Thin Man is because she was captured by the Thin Man.
Then why would she repeat the cycle if she has that knowledge as well?
But maybe she was trying to kill him so the cycle wouldn't repeat.
Maybe we just didn't get it. Maybe.
I mean, she was trying to kill us.
Right.
Well,
Maybe
why-
that
when-
was.
when-
yeah.
But
when
then
she
why
was-
not drop us at any other point?
She doesn't know
Because she
that
didn't
yet.
know that
She doesn't
until
get
the
it until
end.
she get. That was the thing.
Right,
that
we're
I was trying to
reunited.
figure-
You're saved in that. Right. We saved Six in that.
Right.
So
Exactly.
it's our first opportunity.
Right.
And when we're trying to hit the music box, she is trying to kill us.
That's what I was. That's what I was
okay,
saying. Is that when
interesting.
she's trying to kill us in that, when she's like a
And it's
monster.
strange that you're running out of there with her. Because it's like, why would you run out of there with her? She's just been trying to kill you the whole time.
Well, because you're trying to save her from like the
worst
mutated
version.
sense of her. Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I kind of get that, but then
Yeah.
wouldn't she? Maybe she might just be
'Cause
pissed that you trying to break her music.
Because again, it fights the imagery that they've been leading up to
I
that,
know,
where it's like
yeah.
this should have been like inside a TV or like weird whatever, and not like a
Yeah.
MC Escher painting, and just like she's wacky looking. It's like
Seriously,
okay,
though.
like there's a lot of.
But then you're inside the building, right? You're inside the whatever,
Yeah.
where the signal is being pushed. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts about why the building is? It's the only thing that's not a building in the city, right? It's like because when you go in, it's like all the eyes, and it seems like where all the souls are being captured and put
Right.
into. It seemed like living with all the eyes. and
Yeah,
whatnot.
to me, there seemed a lot of like Necronomicon imagery in it, and I said during the gameplay, there's like a lot of Evil Dead 2 references throughout. It seems like there's the whole cabin, and there's like the deer head, and the neck is so much like that creepy character, like and the hand skirting,
So
like
much.
it seemed like they're so influenced by it, and that like wall of eyes is a very like Necronomicon sort of look. But I don't know what, like, even with that knowledge, nothing is unlocked there. So even if it's supposed to be some kind of, like, living Book of the Dead or something,
Right.
like, that doesn't logically make sense, too. Even if they're trying to trap her soul and take it, like
And for
join
what-
us. Like
For what purpose?
Exactly.
That's what I was trying to
think
find the
that's
whole
the
time.
question.
Where's the motive? What's
I
the
think
purpose?
we're trying to look for meaning in something that they didn't. They wanted to make it ambiguous,
Right, yeah.
in a way,
Which I like
but
that.
it's too ambiguous.
Yeah.
I think so, but maybe that comes down to preference.
That's
Yeah.
why I think if it's a nightmare, then its logic is always thrown
And
out
that's
the
why
window. with
that's
that.
my theory. 'Cause I can't
honestly
figure.
think
Do you
you're
guys
right.
have any theories? Is potentially
He's gonna find the hat, and it's all gonna make sense. He's gonna get the hat. It's gonna be a cutscene of him finding the hat, and then everything just fits together perfectly.
So during this part where the eyes are closing in on us, we're inside the building, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. So maybe these are all the people that it's an amalgamation of everybody that got sucked in through their TVs.
That's what I was saying,
thought.
or
yeah.
why they have no faces.
Right, it's just
It's just
because
their
it came through their eyes.
Oh,
Or,
shit, they're gonna die.
it's not the
Hey,
worst
Anthony,
way to go.
focus on the
It's the worst thing ever.
Oh, those testicle eyes.
Ooh.
Chin maneuver.
Oh yeah. I love that.
Where was 6 to catch you?
There's the eye.
Maybe she just abandons me in the alternate ending.
That was,
It
yeah,
doesn't
right.
let
Doesn't
you
even
go.
turn back. Yeah.
Oh shit.
It's a different color, isn't it?
Do you see the door?
Yeah.
So it's a TV.
No, when it. Oh
No.
right, we had to reshoot this.
You're right. It does look like a TV.
Yeah, but
it's
it was
it's
it
a
was
door frame too.
Yeah.
but it was regular TV static, and then when Mono jumped and put his hand out, it's like he manipulated it.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't. That's great detail. So far, this is exactly the same.
We saw her leave?
Yes.
Oh, I don't remember that. Maybe I was just in shock.
Or asleep.
Maybe it's
No, it was honestly during this one.
Maybe I was in.
maybe it's an extended cut where there's something after
Like
what
now,
normally.
maybe now
That's
it's
what I
different too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get that hat.
Or nothing.
Credits? Wow, the credits are different.
It's a shorter one?
Watch, it's just a lie. We were just fed
I would
lies
just
again.
cry.
Like how we initially thought it was a co-op game.
Right?
Oh.
That wasn't a lie. That
That
was that was
was-
just me assuming that it was. A
Well, we all did.
That was
Yeah.
so
We all
disappointing.
independently thought that.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
I love the
Good
sharp
this game
focus. Yeah. That's why it's like, oh, it's okay that it doesn't always make full sense, because it's just like, it's nice to look at. It's
amazing.
well designed.
Yeah, it really
The
is.
puzzles were really cool.
aesthetically gorgeous. Yeah, and the puzzles are great.
I really enjoyed that.
Make you think outside the box or inside the elevator.
Outside the bear.
Outside the paper bag.
Oh my god.
I think this was also an issue we had with the game. Is like the ending felt like it was just a lot of filler, and so kind of lost the momentum.
It
A bit.
was really long into
Yeah,
this room.
it's like this room, or even just like doing the stair door stuff that was very
Oh, that
similar.
was-
I think that we kind of were getting tired. We were tired, but also I think it was still, looking back on it, was still a little too much.
Definitely.
But like this room should have looked like a TV.
Right.
I agree.
Like even just in framing it, making it square or something.
Especially in the concept art when we saw that there were TVs like the
Yeah.
Matrix.
And like all the eyes
Yeah.
closing in on it. Like it's just it's weird that they pulled back on these strong
Yeah.
choices that would have brought a little more logic. And then this reveals a little too long too.
I wonder what it could be after the first 3 minutes.
Here we go.
Where is
We'll
our
find
secret
the hat.
ending?
Oh, he found the hat early.
Still doesn't have the hat.
The alternate ending is he just finds the hat.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
what I was
Wow.
saying.
Really?
Man, I'm
No, he
sorry.
just gets it
Just
earlier.
right.
That's yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
imagine.
Oh, he found it when he was a teenager. Wow, that's a big twist.
Or just turns into like
Still
a
no
slightly
hat.
sideways baseball cap.
Yeah,
Sticks with that look.
One can only dream.
He just visited the other side of town. Wow. All right. Big ripple effect. Oh yes, here.
Where's this
Do you think he
hat?
got the hat because it looks like he's balding?
Right. Yeah.
It's such an insecure choice.
Yeah. Right.
Count my theory out.
Or he's just gonna come and go through the TV and try to get us.
Guys, what if he's a Westworld?
It's all a twist.
So this is the room in the beginning, right? The hallway. That we're
Yeah.
racing
Yeah, they
through.
do
Yeah.
an opening very similar to like the first game where it's like on the lady.
But again, with the logic, is he metaphorically locked in the purple rooms, or is he
Right.
literally locked in the room in the building?
Yeah.
Well, that's
exactly.
why the first time that when we actually get to the room and we open it, that's when he comes out of the TV.
Yeah.
Because we allowed him to get out.
Right.
Because
But-
we never were able to reach the
And like metaphorically,
But we
it's
also
cool,
never
but then
enter
how
a
does it actually
TV
happen?
either.
I
Like we're in the
know.
building. 6 was in that building. Like we've entered. Like we didn't go through any portal. Like at the very least, the doorway of that building then should have been like that staticky portal. Like she just went through.
Or with the eye or something.
Anything.
Yeah,
At
absolutely.
any point should have been like we're now within the world of.
Here it is.
So yeah, more kind of nonsense in my opinion.
Was that a picture of like a postcard of them all?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
that's what I
It was a
thought.
like I really think the idea of the suitcase and being separated is so much stronger than that. Because also that would have only worked if that was the evil of her that was pulled out of it. But she just made that decision right before that to drop him and kill him or whatever. So even if it was just like, oh, she was evil, but then when the Thin Man takes her away and separates her, and now there's the dark version of her, and now she's got to become corrupt. It doesn't even feed into that. It's like every theory breaks down. It's just like interesting visuals and style, but I don't think there's any logic to it, and it's a bummer.
I was a little let down because when she came out of the TV, it's like, oh, we're gonna see
Where she
she's-
progresses.
Well, she was gonna get out, and then like an adult is gonna capture her in a suitcase,
Anything.
or she's
Yeah,
gonna hide in a
right.
Something
suitcase
like
from
that.
somebody.
Anything, yeah.
Like if there was even a suitcase in that scene, I would have been like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah.
That's nice. But it was just she's also a static
Well,
kid.
also
It's-
a Westworld.
What? Well, it also feels like another fairy tale kind of thing where it's just like, oh, it's kind of Peter Pan in his shadow, but it doesn't lead to any. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, cool, that's
Imagery.
kind of interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Or
it's
it's like-
imagery without a sake, a plot
Yeah.
for it.
Or it's like Kingdom Hearts with the Heartless and turning
Oh,
into
God.
like the dark thing.
Yeah.
It's like
Which I think is totally, they're doing the same
sure, of
thing
course.
in that.
It's
Yeah.
like, okay, you're not.
Yeah. It's just something that would have elevated this to another level. It's like if they had
Yeah.
accomplished all this and it all went together really well, it'd be like, man, this game, like this should be the standard for games. But like they needed someone, I think, keeping them on point. That's always my biggest issue with everything is like story. If that falls apart, I can never, like, even if I appreciate other aspects of a movie, a game, whatever, if it fundamentally is messed up in the story, I'll just never return to it. I'll never like it. It's just like that's the most important.
See, I'm on the total opposite end of the spectrum. Like the story is one of the last things for me that really needs to be there. Like if the gameplay is solid, if the mechanics are solid, if the graphics are fantastic, and it doesn't have to be fantastic graphics. It has to be fantastic game design specifically. Not like it has to look hyper realistic. It just has to be well designed.
But isn't that all part of the story? Like, what is it facilitating then?
It's the fun of playing the game. This is a story driven.
I mean the style and design.
It encompasses some part of the story, but like I can take plot holes and things that don't really make sense and motivations that are just like, I'm the hero and I'm here to save the day, as long as it's a really good game to play. I think this one is different in the fact that it is such a story-driven game. It's not like the puzzles are the gameplay. Like it's a good aspect of it, but it's all about discovering this new creepy world and the aesthetics of it and the story of it. So like having the story missing for this is a big hit to it. Having the story missing in Mega Man X3 is like, yeah, okay, I need to shoot Iceman 1,000 times and I'll win. That's the plot. You know?
I get that, but yeah, you're right. This is not that type of game, and I think that's why I like games like BioShock and The Last of Us, is because those are phenomenal, story-driven, and the gameplay is also fun. Like that's why those are my favorite of like all time, because they do that. But I can also love like a Mario game where it's just like
Save the
kind
princess.
of a logical,
Fuck you.
yeah. But even that's like simple enough, and there's at least like a story, like that still has a story, as weird or nonsensical as the world is. You're right. It's kind of a little less important in some games if it's just like the fun or the puzzle of it.
Right.
But,
like this isn't normally my cup of tea.
Right.
But I can appreciate it because it's friggin' gorgeous.
Yeah.
The story of the first one was fantastic, and this one had a really good setup of a story. It just didn't pay off in the end. Yeah. And the gameplay was fun. The puzzles were great. Like the combat, I mean, those hands that were jumping at you with the pipe. That's some hardcore stuff, but it just didn't, the story didn't pay off in the way that it should have for a game of this nature.
Yeah. But like Portal's very puzzle based. That's all it is. But that still has plenty of story, even subtly written throughout, that all logically adds up. Yeah. I think because this doesn't add up, whatever, I feel less inclined to play this again than even say the first one or the DLC. Yeah. Like I'd had fun with this, but I can't really see me returning to this as much as another one because it's not going to be satisfying.
It also doesn't seem like, it's not like a bad story, because I've played games that are just like the story's bad. Right. This just seems incomplete, where it's unsatisfying because you're like, there's nothing to discover. There's not exactly. It's like they half-baked the story. Yeah.
It'd be another thing if this was like, this was a chapter and then there was a continuation, like, or something that like or made this make sense. But there's nothing that makes, with how many plot holes and things we found, nothing will make this make sense outside of it's all a dream.
To me, it just seems daunting to try and play this over, like just like to go back to it and see if there's more to it, which you did, so that we could see the secret ending.
Yeah,
and
there's
everything.
Really nothing unlocked. No.
But also we watched through the gameplay footage, so it's like we've played it again. Yeah. In fact, we've analyzed it even more. I've watched the gameplay.
That's true.
More,
I think that's why it's also that's why it's disappointing to me, is because we brought and nothing's unlocked about it. No. So then it just feels hollow, feels empty, and even worse is that we've figured out ways in which we could change it that would have strengthened it and make it work without changing much of anything that's already in here. Yeah. So that's more the disappointment. It's just like, you were there, you were so close. It was.
We should make a video game.
Honestly, I feel like my ideal job would be going in and fixing stories,
fixing
and
10-year-old games optimally after they've had critical acclaim.
It's crazy how often sometimes they are stepping in the right direction. They're like making those moves, and then they just miss the mark. It's very and those must be producer choices or something that alters maybe a vision or something. I'm just surprised with a smaller game like this. You'd think there'd be less for an independent, more of an independent. That wouldn't be a real struggle. And also, what are they changing that isn't already satisfying?
I agree.
You know what's interesting is that so this game is a prequel. I'm wondering, did it need to be told? I think that's sometimes what disappoints me with continuations of franchise and stuff. Like when you played the first one, what were your main questions?
Yeah.
Were they what happened before this?
No, not really.
Okay.
It was more
I
of like,
don't know
ooh,
either,
that's so
but-
interesting. I want to see what happens now. Because now she's corrupted. She's
Right.
different. It's a tragic ending, but there's more of an open-endedness. I don't care really where she comes from, especially with my theory of like, this is a cycle.
But no,
If
it's
any-
not really.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Or it's not
even
there.
if it is, it's like nothing has advanced. It's still the same theory. It's even confirmed a bit in this, but it doesn't add to it. Like you could have continued the story, having it actually be a sequel, not a prequel.
Right.
Which this is. It's just masquerading as a sequel.
Right.
Where you could have alluded to maybe where she came from or
Yeah.
like how she ended up in the suitcase, but you're continuing on with the story.
yeah.
Well, I found it interesting that they showed how she got the iconic raincoat, but then didn't
Yeah.
do anything with it.
And it wasn't relevant, really.
All we
No.
did was
It's
get,
only relevant with the information you have,
Right.
which is when a prequel's, I think, bad.
we got the achievement that said true colors, and
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It doesn't add to anything. It's just like, it's fan service shit, which things get bogged down with, or just like, oh,
I'm
look,
okay
this
with
is-
a little bit of that, but there needs to be more.
Well, that's the problem with everything, is everything does that. There's no mystery left anymore. It's like, I don't want to see her get it. It's like, I don't care how Han Solo
I was
became
just gonna
Han
say that.
Solo.
Right.
I don't want to see the Kessel Run. That's you see them making that mistake 100 miles away, and they still do it time and time and time again. You don't want that. That's the fun of hearing about these things, filling in those blanks yourself, the mystery to it. It adds to the character. This does nothing. It negates her character.
Right.
I want her character to be a mystery. I want to project things onto it. This pulls that ability away. And a lot of things do that. It's with the Harry Potter series. It's with it's Star Wars. It's everything, especially when it becomes a bigger franchise. They want to get rid of the magic, the mystery of it. And I fucking despise that. I hate prequels.
Right.
If I had known this was a prequel, I would have been looking forward to it less. It was only that it was revealed while we were playing. It's
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
oh, this isn't a 2. That's
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Also,
And
this
then-
is not 2-player.
Yeah. It's like that
50
double
minutes
punch.
in,
And
yeah.
then I think it wasn't until a week later that the makers of the game actually announced that it was a prequel.
Right.
Because I was like following like them on Twitter and stuff,
Yeah.
and I thought there was an article saying that we're like, oh yeah, we announced it is a prequel.
And what's that
But
mystery serve?
Right, but
really?
it wasn't until after people had already bought the game. So
It's-
it wasn't until like a week after
And
the
that's
release.
needless deception. It's weird.
It's rough.
I
It
don't-
is.
I don't-
That's-
I love how
that's
we
not
talked
fair.
about this game in terms of like how good it was as a scary, fun, delightful game, and then just slowly, as soon as we touched on story, it just
Yeah.
plumped.
Well, that's I think the moral of the story though is that if you're looking for a game that you want to enjoy with your friends or be kind of scared alone, it's great. It's
Yeah.
absolutely terrific. I think this game is better if you've never played the first one. And I don't know if
Yes.
that's true, but I think
I
it
would
is.
agree
But then it
that,
I
also
would
ruins
absolutely.
the first game experience.
I don't
Well,
even
look,
but
I was
yeah.
asleep
No,
for most of the
yeah.
time.
Right.
I'm saying I agree
No,
with that,
I-
but
yeah.
it also
Right.
Of course, yeah.
I wouldn't, if you plan on playing the first one, I wouldn't play this one first. But
Right.
if you don't care about the story or anything, this game is well made, well done. There was a ton of attention to detail and incredible imagery that comes from obviously some like internal fears and stuff like that. Really effective at that. If you're trying to connect lore, it's not, in my mind, successful at that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also I do like that we contrast the good and the bad. Like when I say how something could have been better or analyzing or whatever, that's not detracting from those other elements.
No,
in
I
my
don't think so.
mind.
I just found it funny that
yeah.
once we hit that story mark, it was like, that is the one pitfall of this game. Every other part of this game is fantastic.
No, I just think some people can be very defensive about that. And I don't.
Yeah.
I was like, no, you can love thing and then also have criticism of it. That's the joy of it. And it's also like, I'm not going to hold this up as like, it's the greatest game ever. It's like the worst piece of shit ever. It's like, no, it's in the middle, but more leaning towards the side of good. It just has some like pretty big flaws once you start analyzing
And
it.
to be fair, this might not be all players, but you were invested in the story.
Oh, absolutely.
You were really invested in the story. So if you are, you might be disappointed by this.
Yeah.
If you're not, and you just like this kind of stuff, this creepy stuff, and you've even played the first one, it won't ruin it for you.
No, the journey is still fun.
It is fun.
I
Ending
wasn't
that's
invested
more-
in the story at all.
Right.
Because I
Yeah,
was
exactly.
asleep for the first one that you guys played.
So you kind of had his experience.
Yeah.
Like, you
Right.
like, you
The
didn't
people
really
I'm
see the
talking
first
about.
I did.
Yeah,
I didn't really see the
barely
first
saw
one.
the first one too.
I honestly feel that if I played the first one now, I'd go, man, this ruins the Little Nightmares 2.
Right.
Yeah,
Throws
maybe.
away the whole plot of the Little Nightmares 2. That was so
right.
solid.
Yeah. Right. Little Nightmares 2 is so great. Why did they have to ruin it with the sequel? But I would just say that Mono isn't the Thin Man. I would just say, let's not have that. Let's just have the Thin Man be an external antagonist and have Mono just be some kid who escaped or got kicked off the maw and ended up whatever through the dimension or whatever, all that stuff. But just have it not be tied in because the whole idea of a time vortex or paradox, I don't like that. It takes me out of the story. That's what I would change.
Yeah, you could have the whole lead up to the battle at the end, everything, whatever. It's very reminiscent. Obviously, it's like all an echo of it. But he defeats the Thin Man. That could have then been this bittersweet, like he's then separated from or can't get to her in some way. Like, because he's a very much a knight character. He has like the helmet kind of like look to it. And Six has sort of become this like trapped princess sort of thing in this tower or whatever. But it could be his attempt to rescue her failing and then them getting separated by the suitcase. Like whole thing. There's a very easy way, I think, to keep 98% of this game and not have to change anything except for the ending. It's honestly once you enter that building. So that's why it's like you can have all that. You defeated yourself.
Right.
We don't even need to know that. You can just speculate that too, because it's no different than the Six. Why is her name Six? Why is his name Mono?
Right.
Just have that be part of the fun of deconstructing or like analyzing the story. And then the going to save her, failing or whatever, and alluding to that. Maybe it's like him standing there on the shore. She goes away, and then a TV flickers or whatever next to him, like, and just an eye or a hand or something. Like, just you don't need these strong choices that honestly destroy your entire story. It's only at the end.
Weirdly ambiguous. And then extremely firm on some points.
It is.
Exactly.
You know, like
That's
ambiguity is
part.
great, but they're like telling you, like, no, this is this.
Right.
Even though it ruins all the other ambiguity. So you can really only speculate so much.
Yeah, where there's
So-
even if you don't say it, there is a legitimate idea of what the story or the point is. Right now, there's so much added into it, we can't possibly deconstruct it. And even if someone is like, well, I figured it out, it's ruined for, I think, most people. Like, there's no way for you to have, or you have to spend too much time.
Right.
That shouldn't be how it works.
The thing is, the reasonable viewer, I don't think, would understand what the story is. And
I
that's
think
not a good thing.
Right.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
When you're hoping that, or like hoping that people just don't analyze it this much, that's where there's a problem.
Right.
Because that it's
Well, but I like to think that game developers will believe in the intelligence of their audience.
Sure.
Like when they shove stuff down your throat, it's like, okay, we get it.
Yeah.
He's the new Thin Man. Like I don't
But that's
like
why I hate that. Yeah.
No, I don't like that. But at the same time, you have like multiple people here who are all breaking this down as we do it, and then editing the game 7.5 hours of gameplay footage and still don't understand it.
Yeah.
Right.
That means that it's too much work to get the
Yeah,
answer.
it's exactly.
It's too much work.
I agree
Yeah.
with you.
It's not even like the lay person watching it and being like, I don't get this.
Right.
Du-du.
Yeah.
It's like for people who are intent on figuring out
Exactly.
this story
Right.
can't figure this story
And who
out.
also
Yeah.
like love Easter eggs, all that
Yeah,
stuff.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love this kind of stuff.
Really analyzing it.
I ruin
Analytical
like I said, I
minds.
ruin movies
Yeah.
where I can watch
Yeah.
something, see it, and
Yeah.
realize what they're
Yeah.
already putting down. It's like, oh, okay, so he was dead
Right.
the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's like whatever. But I can still enjoy it as even if it's predictable, seeing how it unfolds. I'm still satisfied with it if
Yeah.
it's done well. My theories of what I thought, even if it ended up being that way, I would have been content with because it's
Yeah.
like, okay, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
they,
know
they
what?
did it really
Yeah.
well.
Right. I'm sorry. Didn't mean
Yeah.
to cut you
No,
off.
no.
No, and when I was trying to look up theories, I was like so hoping after we looked through the
Any
first,
answers?
just
Yeah.
somebody to have a theory that I'd be like, oh, okay, perfect
Yeah,
sense,
yeah.
and that sigh of relief, like, wow, we just missed it,
Yeah.
and I've not found one thing that's satisfying any
No.
part of it.
No.
I found little Easter eggs that I thought were interesting and possible. Like there's a portrait that shows up throughout the first game, just like a weird, like, one of the many weird looking guys. And that same image shows up in the cabin up in the attic.
Mm.
And I was like, oh
Yeah.
shit, is that the hunter? Because the guy's eyes drooped down and like up one, and the
Oh.
the hole in the bag is very low. And I was like, oh, that's cool. If it's like him, and then he became
Oh.
deformed or whatever, and now he wears this bag on his head. It's like, that's great. That colors your world. I don't need answers. I can make that connection, or I don't.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
I like
Adds
that.
to it.
Well, we also had, I believe, the same guy in the room in the school with the chessboard. Remember, there was this weird portrait that were
Yeah.
like, who
Yeah.
is
That's the
this?
guy. That's the guy.
That's the same
Yeah,
guy,
that's the
right?
same
Okay, that's what I
portrait, yeah.
thought. We were just like, who
Yeah,
are you?
That I think is the hunter.
It's
it
likely.
makes sense, and that's just like a fun Easter egg. In the DLC, the teacher's portrait, there's like a concept art of her, and it's just this smiling, creepy thing. And I think they went, that's really creepy. Let's make that the look of the teacher.
Sure.
Right.
And they added that in. They don't need to be explicit about it. It just helps add to the world, and that's not the hammering on the head kind of idea.
Right.
Right. It's for people who are looking at it, finding Easter eggs, which is great.
Yeah.
I love it when developers do that. It's just when you're doing that constantly and you still don't get answers. Is just it's brute. It's like a slap in the face. It's like, we've been looking at this from
Yeah.
every angle, literally multiple camera angles, and still not getting anything.
I also found it interesting that I haven't seen anything of them admitting to the fact that it's very like Salvador Dali-esque, like with the perception of time and also like the
Oh,
droopiness
very
and stuff,
abstract.
and also
Yeah.
There's a
the
lot of Escher
the
and stuff,
slowness of time. Like
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything of them either admitting it or even like in theories and stuff.
Mm.
Not that that's really
It
like
could
a
even just be
theory.
inspiration.
Yeah, it's
We
just-
should
just
corner them and
something.
make them admit it.
Yeah.
Hey, you told us it was
Yeah.
a prequel. Can you tell us if
Yeah.
this is what it is?
You're right.
We have Escher and Dali,
Right. Yeah.
which is surrealism.
Yeah. Right. I guess so. Yeah.
So if they put out a third game, would you want to play, or is this kind of like soured you a little on it?
Of
If it's
course.
not called Big Dreams, I'm out.
Yeah. No, of course they have me.
Yeah,
I just want
I-
clarification.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'd play it just for the visuals.
Yeah, I would play it
That's
just
fair.
for the fun experience.
That's
Yeah.
exactly
I would try
right.
to turn that part of my brain
Yeah.
off.
I was gonna
maybe.
say that. I would
Mine is always on.
Right.
I would try not to analyze story wise. I'd
Right.
analyze like the imagery of it because that's a really detailed part that they really like put focus on. But yeah, I don't know if I would try and figure out the actual through line of the story.
Well, but it would be nice if they put out a third game and that it's rather than releasing DLC, put out a third game and just have that connect the content here. Give us what
That
we
would be
didn't get in
nice.
this game, but also what they're gonna put it out in 5 years and then it's gonna explain this game that they released
Right.
5
I
years
will
ago.
be
I won't be
forgetting-
satisfied.
yeah, I'll forget about
I'll
this
still be
by
kind
now.
of pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like the DLC came out maybe like a year after. Like
Yeah,
that's reasonable.
but you're also not playing as 6, which is interesting too. Like, would you want the third game to be just like a complete new child, or would you rather follow 6 or mono?
I want a new child.
Just new child
Yeah,
entirely.
because I want the name.
Yeah.
I just want to know what the name will be.
Deuce.
What number?
Yeah. Do it. Yeah.
All right, so I think they should have ended this one having 6 drop the jewel into the sea. You know, kick the door out to sea. And
What would be the thing that you would change that would help the story?
You just said it.
I need a straight answer from you.
a straight answer.
God damn it! As God is my witness.
You know what? I'm realizing now they do kind of do that watery imagery too. Like they're feeding into the idea more and more.
Enough with you.
But no, but like the water,
It's
like,
not Titanic.
But him like floating underwater, there is
Yeah.
No, I know.
it is more feeding into that idea of
And
that's
all the
where they
revolves
get
around the door.
separated or
Well,
something.
that's why in the beginning when we saw the door, it looked like it was this crazy weird.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Herb's so
I
angry
know.
right now.
I'm not even
No,
saying the
I'm not talking
Titanic.
about
I just-
Titanic. I'm talking about the underwater with the mom.
Uh-huh.
With
Uh-huh,
the ship.
sure, great.
Yeah.
Move on.
I'm not
That's
talking
right.
about Titanic at all.
I don't harbor resentments openly.
I think what would have done what would have solved a lot of things for me, kind of like what you guys are saying, how it's like the cyclical with the Thin Man. It could have been Six letting go of him at the end, cut to black. I would have literally
letting
been
it
okay
go,
with that.
and he turns into the necklace.
And then he falls, and as he falls, you see that it's all filled with water, and he drops into the sea and to the bottom.
Underneath the
My
mom.
And then
heart
Six
will-
pulls back her hood, and she's an old lady. She goes, "I'll always love you, Jack."
Produced by James Cameron. Yo, right there, Herbie.
I think we've analyzed this to no end. If anyone is still watching, thank you for sticking through watching all the hours of playthrough. Us talking nonsense about this. This is like atypical. I think our other episode is going to be much shorter, kind of like our alien episode. So thank you so much if you've been watching any of this.
And for the love of God, if you know what this game is about, please reach
honestly,
out.
let us
yeah,
know.
It's
if
driving
you-
me insane.
If you do have your own theories, please leave them in a comment. I
Yeah.
would be fascinated to hear what.
Or
other people
contact
have.
me on my personal phone number,
Yeah.
which is
555.
It's actually blinking right now.
click below.
Yeah.
So this has been Horror Door. If you have any suggestions as well of any horror-related thing you'd like us to review, talk about, spend hours rambling, also
Stay
leave it
up
in a
all
comment.
night consuming.
Yeah, please leave it in a comment below. And thanks again for watching. Keep it creepy.